Yeah, so I've been running into a lot of depressed people lately. And it could be because of COVID is surging again. It could be because it's seasonal. It's probably all the above. And gatherings were not, a lot of events were canceled, so gatherings were not taking place as usual. So, yeah, so there's a lot of depressed people. And with these depressed people comes a lot of substance abuse. And if it's not substance abuse, then it's these other things that they need, like antidepressants. And I totally understand because it's hard to function when you're depressed. But something really important that I want to say about depression and emotions in general, especially the ones that people perceive as negative, is that all of them serve a function and a purpose, and they're all good for you. Your body doesn't create anything that's bad for you. Like even cortisol is good for you in certain amounts. Like people always are afraid of stress. They don't want to stress out because it increases cortisol and then that leads to cancer. That is like extreme, like when you don't ever calm down. If you stay in that fight or flight, high stress state, nervous system state, then that's too much. But other than that, your body is always producing things that are good for you. So if you get depressed or angry about something, it's good to actually go through, let the cycle, it's sort of like a printer or any type of machinery. Sometimes in order to keep the maintenance up, you got to let things run its cycle. And so that's the same with depression. I mean, unfortunately, like I said, I know why people are quick to want to fix their depression right away. Because there's also an embarrassment. There's also like a stigma about depression where people don't want to be seen as depressed. But there is some of that too. There is some validity to that too, because you don't want to be a victim either. You don't want to welcome depression and get addicted to it and then always be depressed. And you don't want to become a victim either. But if you're legitly depressed about something, it's cool to just let it run its cycle real quick. And don't be afraid of it. Anyway, so this is actually a video I wanted to make about a story that is both disturbing but pretty incredible. And if you're ever in a dark place in life, listen to this story. It may or may not be the thing to cheer you up, but it's pretty incredible. So I don't know why I didn't know about this sooner, but so it turns out there's actually a lot of wrongfully convicted people in prisons. A lot of people get pressured into confessing for a crime that they didn't commit. And so there's so many cases. Like there's this one where these 4 guys all 4 of them were forced into confessing to a gang rape. And none of them did it or were even there, and the DNA didn't even match. And the cops, after they sort of realized they messed it up, they kept it like that. Like they didn't want to reveal that they made a mistake. So they did all these things to bend the facts and the evidence to fit their theory. And then they would have to keep readjusting their theory to keep these guys in prison, so that no one knew they messed up. But after a while, it got too out of hand, and the DNA wasn't matching, and they ended up finding the real guy. So it ended up getting resolved. But the story I actually want to focus on is about this other guy named Archie Williams. So Archie Williams was this black man, and he was wrongfully convicted of a rape and battery. And for the same reason, a lot of things. If you're wondering, like, how does this happen? Like, how do they end up in the interrogation room? Well, it's because sometimes when the police are investigating a crime scene, they're going to talk and ask questions to the neighbors and people who might know something. So sometimes those people just go on a hunch and they say, like, oh, I saw that guy. Or he used to look at, he had an interest in that person, and they don't know. They're not saying that they think that they're the ones that did it, but they're just providing suspects. And then that's how these people end up in the interrogation room. And then when you're in the interrogation room, they already assume you're guilty. That's how it works. They already assume you're guilty. And there's all these things, like they can hide, if they ask you to take a polygraph test, they can hide the results from you and tell you that lie to you, tell you that you actually failed. And it's all just about making you feel as guilty as possible, because they're trying to crack you and break you and get you to really confess. But sometimes it's so hardcore that you really have an innocent person there, and they're in there for 8 to 11 hours with no food, sleep deprived, and with this pressure, this intense pressure, not relentless pressure. And but then they're also conflating things too, confusing them too by saying, no, but I'm here to help you. I'm here to help you. You just have to confess. So you went in there, you took out the knife, you stabbed the person. That's what you did, isn't it? I want to help you. So they lay on the pressure like that. So anyway, this guy, Archie Williams, went to prison for 37 years. He was in prison for 37 years. And it wasn't until they finally found out that they got the wrong guy and they released him. And what's interesting, though, is that it was always this guy's dream to be on TV. And he was a singer. And so, interestingly enough, on season 15 of America's Got Talent, they look for contestants who have an interesting story. So this guy definitely had an interesting story. And so when he got on the show, and he actually got to live his dreams. That was his lifelong dream, was to go on TV and sing. And so he actually got to fulfill his dream. And who would have thought? Because sometimes you feel hopeless in life, or like you don't know how things are going to work out. I always reemphasize this because so much crazy things, even with myself, like I don't know how I ended up in like certain situations, and you really don't know. You can't logically calculate how this is all going to happen. Sometimes and oftentimes, dude, life is there's infinite possibilities. So, but what's weird about this guy, so they asked him on the show, they're like, tell us a little bit about yourself. And he said, and the first thing he said was, okay, well, I've been in prison for the last 37 years. I was wrongfully convicted of a crime I didn't commit. And that's his story. But the weird thing about him is his outlook on life. He was really happy. He didn't have any anger about his situation, and he just dealt with it when he was in prison, and he kept a positive attitude, and he didn't really have that much negative things to say, which I thought was incredible. Like that's an amazing feat of the human mind and spirit right there. And there is no gene for the human spirit, like they say at the end of Gattaca. That's like a really good example. A guy who was in prison 37 years. Think about that. That's like an entire lifetime that this guy was in prison for something he didn't do. And now he's actually finally getting to live his dreams. Life is weird. It works. Things work in really weird ways. So that's Archie Williams. And if you could find his story on the internet. You just type in Archie Williams. And so yes, if you are experiencing any type of doubt about things, or you have a limited mindset about things, think about this story for a second. I know a lot of people might say, like, I don't know. It doesn't matter what other people say. It matters what this guy was able to get through and to accomplish in life. That is just a crazy story.